Topping and SMSL release DACs and amps and combos like Hershey's makes chocolates. Barely a few months pass after a new topping or SMSL DAC, and they throw a newer option into the market. Today, we're going to talk about Topping's currently newest product, the DX5. This is a $450 combo DAC amp. Apos Audio let me borrow the DX5. Apos and I have a continuing relationship where they let me borrow gear from time to time. Apos is one of those rare online retailers which actually has excellent customer service and is an authorized dealer for every piece of kit on their website. Check out Apos if you're interested in buying new stuff. So, what can this new $450 product offer that hasn't already been done? When it comes to marketing, Topping is repeating the same routine as with every single other product they and SMSL have ever released. It's the same old stuff, highlighting the atomic level SNR and distortion measurements, high resolution audio support for formats the vast majority of audiophiles are unlikely to ever use, and yada yada yada. The DX5 uses two ES9068AS chips for a balanced output through the headphone section. The 9068 is among the newer DAC releases in the market. It was released sometime in 2021. The DX5 has all forms of Bluetooth reception, yet again, there's no transmission capability. Nevertheless, Topping supports SBC to LDAC, but your source device needs to transmit the same codecs, so if you connect with an SBC source, don't think that you're actually getting LDAC. Topping says that the DX5 provides 1.8 watts at 32 ohms, 1 watt at 64 ohms, and 250 milliwatts at 300 ohms. Topping makes some odd statements about the audio performance of the DX5. Topping claims that they spent days tweaking and tuning the DX5, which resulted in unprecedented clarity and unmatched musicality. If you've watched my other DAC reviews, it should come as no surprise when I say this is questionable marketing nonsense. First, when you look at Topping's marketing in context, you can tell that Topping's supposed unprecedented clarity is directly related to THD and SNR. As I've pointed out countless times in the past, THD and SNR measurements are useless. Your ears cannot hear the difference below 1%. And none of the modern amps and DACs will ever change that fundamental limitation. As for Topping's statement that the DX5 has unmatched musicality, well, this is yet again another audiophile example of audiophile jargon. The word musical or musicality is amorphous and undefined. Finally, Topping's own frequency response measurement shows that this product has a flat output. As far as build is concerned, Topping has taken a step above their previous iterations. The DX5 is one attractive device. Even the unboxing experience is more Apple-esque than before. The curved chassis, space gray color, and simple front panel make you think that this is something that might have been designed at Cupertino rather than China. And, of course, Topping has product shots with MacBooks if you didn't get the hint. The DX5 has solid construction. The screen is bright and easy to read. The front panel is uncluttered. The volume knob is actually metal and clickable. You'll get a balanced XLR and single-ended connection on the front. The back panel houses RCA and XLR outputs, Bluetooth antenna, USB, optical, and coaxial connections. And there's a power switch on the back. Overall, the DX5 offers essentially the same connectivity and options as the older EX5 and other devices. There's nothing new here, other than the DAC chipset. The DX5 has specifications and measurements we have seen for years from this company and SMSL, and frankly, others. If you want to hear how the DX5 makes you feel or wax poetic about a DAC and amp, this is not the channel for you. You've got a multitude of other reviewers who will cater to that, so go watch that sort of stuff if you're interested. Here, I'm only interested in figuring out a few things. First, what is the DX5's overall performance? In other words, did I experience any connectivity issues, usability problems, or oddities that would be inconsistent with a typical DAC amp? Second, does the DX5 perform or sound different from alternatives? And finally, does the DX5 have sufficient power for typical headphones? I broke up my test into several stages. In the first stage, I used the DX5 by itself for about 3 weeks. I connected it to my PC and Mac, used streaming services and local files. In the second stage, I compared the DX5 as a standalone DAC and also as a combo. For the DAC test, I compared it to the EX5, Songcause LA-QXD1, and the SMSL SU9N. I plugged each of these devices into the same PC and used Voice Meter Banana to send signal at once. I used the same amp, and in this case it was the Gustard H16. To test the DX5 in its combo mode, I compared it against the EX5 and the SU9N with the H16. Once again, I connected all devices to the same PC and used Voice Meter. I connected each device's single-ended headphone output to a passive AB switch. I used various headphones including the Austrian Audio X55, AKG K371, and the audeze LCD2 Classic. The final stage of testing was simply to use the DX5 with a wide swath of headphones. This includes the LCD2, Ableton Planar, K371, Biodynamic T1, Hi-Fi Man Sundara, and Modhouse Argon. I used Amazon Music HD and Qobuz and my local files for these tests. I listened to my test playlist and random selection of songs for verification. Now, let's get to the results. First, how does the DX5 perform overall? Quite well. The only issue I experienced was with the driver while connected to my Windows 11 PC. The driver did not automatically install and I had to download it from Topping's website. That caused Windows to crash. When I tried on my Windows 10 and my Mac, the DX5 worked perfectly. So this was a problem with Windows 11, which is not surprising. I reinstalled Windows 11, updated it, and the Topping driver worked without a problem. There really isn't much to say about the performance. The DX5 connects as easily as any other DAC. I never heard clipping or distortion irrespective of which music source I used. I never had any concerns with startup or using the various functions. Bluetooth connection on the DX5 is no different from how it performs on the EX5 and other DACs which support Bluetooth reception. Connecting via Bluetooth is intuitive. Simply put the DX5 into Bluetooth mode and connect. Ultimately, I cannot recall ever having any issues in usability with Topping or SMSL products. I've never struggled to connect or use their gear, and the DX5 performed exactly like I expected in this respect. When I initially listened to the DX5, I did not hear anything different, or at least I did not hear anything that caught my attention. My music did not appear to be more, musical, or energetic, or drool-worthy, or even dynamic. Sitting and listening with the DX5 for lengthy hours never made me feel like this device was presenting my music in a way that I had not already heard before, and that's precisely why I was able to enjoy my music, because it was my music as I've heard it. Some people think that single-ended output has a different sound signature than balanced output. I have never experienced that, but I tested it here anyway. I plugged the DAC output of the DX5 into the Gustard H16. I connected via balanced and RCA at once. The H16 can switch between both connections on the fly. Going back and forth over and over again after making the requisite volume adjustments over the songs, I never heard any difference in single-ended or balanced output in DACs. Let's talk about the second stage of tests, that is, testing the DAC output and the combo unit. I already described the setup, so let's get right into the results. There was no audible difference whatsoever between the DX5 and its competitors, not an iota of alteration when compared against the Songcause LA-QXD1, the SMSL SU9N, and the EX5. Playing exactly the same tracks, using the same source, making sure the DACs were outputting max to the amp, I never once heard an obvious change among any of these devices. Irrespective of genre of music, the DX5 sounded exactly like the competitors. When I compared the DX5 as a combo unit against the EX5 and also the SU9N with the H16, I got the same result. Not a lick of difference. Let's briefly touch on the DX5's output power for headphones. Topping claims 1.8 watts at its peak. We know from prior experience that Topping and SMSL exaggerate their measurements. Finding third-party verification is almost necessary at this point. ASR did measure the DX5. Their findings are consistent with Topping's claims. While there are slight differences from ASR's results and Topping's claims, that could be attributed to improper testing and measuring methodology or simply unit variation. Regardless, I'm glad that Topping's numbers appear verified at least by one source. In my own experience, I found that the DX5 easily drove every headphone I tried. it did not struggle with the Argon or T1 or any of the audeze headphones. The DX5 performance in this regard was similar to what I achieved with the EX5. Both devices are capable of driving headphones from the entire gamut of possibilities. As a side note, I found that the DX5's Bluetooth connectivity was stable and consistent. It's not possible to do a true A/B test between wired and wireless connection, so all I can say is that there was no difference in sound signature, at least nothing immediate. However, I was able to hear slight differences in clarity. The Bluetooth connection was never as clear as through wired input, but that's par for the course where Bluetooth is concerned. Sometimes I feel like I'm wasting my time doing DAC and amp reviews. I've already shown repeatedly how anyone can reproduce actual A/B tests using off-the-shelf components with a total cost of less than $25. But over and over again, I've seen people refuse to put in the moderate effort. Instead, I keep reading reviews, comments, and watching YouTube personalities wax poetic about gear that they don't actually test. Do the tests. And if you don't want to do the proper tests, then don't tell people there's a difference in sound quality, musicality, dynamics, or any other audiophile mumbo-jumbo. The DX5 is yet one more topping product that measures perfectly well. It is, in my opinion, a huge step forward in aesthetics. It's by far the best-looking unit out of Topping's factory. But when you look at the functionality, you get a more depressing picture. There's nothing new here. There's nothing innovative. There's nothing different in practice. Yeah, so Topping dropped a new DAC chip into the chassis. When you look at the spec sheet from ESS, you don't see anything about the DAC's sound signature or sound quality. A vague statement about dynamics is the most you'll get. And, of course, the engineers at ESS would probably agree that a DAC's dynamic capability is not particularly relevant when your music has a far lower dynamic range than what the DAC can muster. The DX5 sound is as neutral, as flat, as its cheaper competitors. It's a transparent DAC with a transparent amp. This product has the same feature set as the $100 cheaper EX5. It's got no better sound quality than the SMSL SU9N, the DAC which received limitless praise from all corners of the internet not too long ago. All the DX5 has, in my opinion, are its looks. This brings us to value. No, I don't think you can make a cogent argument that the DX5 is value. A competitor like the EX5 does exactly what the DX5 does, but at a materially cheaper price. Where exactly is the additional $100 for the DX5 going? Looks, aesthetics, prettiness. Don't get me wrong, I really like how this product looks, and it works perfectly well. But I cannot fathom why Topping thinks this thing deserves a $450 price tag. The funny thing is that I thought the DX5 was substantially cheaper. When Appos sent me the unit, it was pre-release and pre-announcement. Appos didn't even know at the time what the price would be. Now, Appos always sends me a receipt for the value of the gear they are loaning to me. So when I got that email for the DX5, I saw that the DX5 was marketed at $50. I was blown away. $50? Hell yes, this thing is worth buying at $50. When I emailed Appos to confirm this price, I was told that the $50 price in the receipt was merely a placeholder until Topping decided on the actual price. Unfortunately, that actual price is $450. Imagine my grumblings when I heard that. Look, if you want to buy the DX5, go right ahead. It's a good product with good features. If you like its aesthetics and do not mind paying more than a comparable product, then that's your choice. I mean, if you are fine with paying an increase for better looks, then that's a valid justification. That's a good reason, and you can put an objective spin on a subjective rationale. But don't buy the DX5 thinking you're getting improved sound. You're not. Don't think you're getting more or better features. You're not. And definitely don't think this will be the last Topping product this year. It won't be. If you choose to buy the DX5, think about doing it from Appos. It's best to buy this type of gear from an authorized dealer, which Appos happens to be. Since Appos has a generous return policy and great customer service, that's where I would suggest you buy if you're inclined to buy at all.